Do you know what a psychoanalyst feels like while watching a horror movie? He feels a Freud. Yes, indeed. Once again, it's time for the monthly unboxing and discussion of the wonderful DVD and Blu-ray offerings from the fine folks over at HorrorPack. I've got my two horror packs, the DVD and the Blu-ray pack, courtesy of the United States Postal Service. They've just arrived, and as is my way, I'm going to cut these boxes open. We'll pull everything out one at a time. I'll go through it. If I've seen it, I'll tell you about it. If I haven't seen it, we'll discover it together, and we'll discuss everything from the March 2022 horror packs. Now, before I actually cut these boxes open and see what's inside, I have just a little bit of bookkeeping to take care of. First of all, in my last horror pack unboxing and discussion video for the February 2022 horror packs, I mentioned that another 6 months has gone by since I did one of my mass reviews of all of the DVDs and Blu-rays, all of the horror movies from HorrorPack. I am still planning on making another one of those. I'm now a month behind schedule, and I apologize for that. Life has sort of gotten the best of me over these last few weeks, but I am nearly ready to do that, and you should be seeing my review of the previous 6 months worth of HorrorPack entries within the next month or so. This would be the 7th month in that cycle, and this will be part of the next set of reviews for the 1 year, the next 12 months, the next review video after that. So stay tuned for all of that. Be sure to subscribe and ring the notification bell so you don't miss out on that or any of my other wonderful horror-related content here on the Phobophile channel. And the other thing I want to mention on a related topic is just that this is a very busy season for me, both at work, and I'm racing to meet some deadlines with a fairly large writing project. So you'll be hearing some news about that at some point. I have no idea when, but in the meantime, I've been a little slower than I'd prefer getting these videos out. That's about to change. I'm nearly to the finish line on this writing project, and my work schedule is about to slow down a little bit as the busy season comes to a close. So expect a lot of great new stuff coming in the weeks and months ahead. Now, without further ado, let's go ahead and cut these open. These are the March 2022 horror packs, and we'll see what's inside. Here's pack number 1. It's fairly thin, so I think that's probably the Blu-ray pack. I'm assuming this must be the DVD pack here. Let's get that open. And this does feel a little bit thicker. It must be the DVD pack. So without further ado, let's go ahead and open up these packs and see what's inside, shall we? Okay, as I like to do, I'm going to start with the DVD horror pack. And the first one out of that is The Moth Diaries. Every girl has her secrets, according to the tagline. It says it's from the director of American Psycho, which is reasonably good provenance. I'm unfamiliar with the film. I do like the title. I've always had sort of a thing for moths in general. In fact, Mothman is probably my favorite cryptid, although, to be fair, I like them all. As I said, I'm not familiar with this film. Let's read the description on the back and see what we're in for. 16-year-old Rebecca, haunted by her poet father's suicide, records her intimate thoughts in a diary, most of them centered on her best friend and roommate Lucy. But when a dark and mysterious new girl, Ernessa, arrives at school, everyone's world is turned upside down. Suddenly, there's a rash of grisly deaths on campus. Lucy and Ernessa become inseparable, and Rebecca begins to believe that the porcelain-skinned newcomer is a vampire who is draining Lucy of life. Based on Rachel Klein's novel and written for the screen and directed by Mary Herron, The Moth Diaries is an eerie and suspenseful gothic tale where fantasy and reality bleed together into a waking nightmare. Seems like a vampire story. At least they believe that there's a vampire involved, so maybe there's some mystery involved in terms of whether it's really a vampire, whether it's not, or maybe it's just a straightforward vampire story. We'll have to watch it to find out. The description does sound a little bit like Let the Right One In, the Swedish vampire story, which is one of my favorites. I don't expect this to be as good, because it's hard for anything to be as good, but if it has even any of those kinds of flavors, it should be a good watch. Looking forward to trying The Moth Diaries. Next, out of the DVD pack, we have a film called In Their Skin. The tagline asks us, what would you do to be perfect? I'm already perfect, so it's kind of a moot point. Anyway, according to the description, after a tragic accident, Mark and Mary Hughes retreat to their vacation home in the woods with their son. The family are awoken early the next morning by their neighbors Bobby and Jane, who invite themselves over for dinner. What starts out as merely an awkward evening unravels as Bobby's questions become intrusive, and his envy of the Hugheses turns to aggression. As matters escalate, it becomes clear that there's no limit to what Bobby will do to get what Mark and Mary have, and ultimately the couple's will to survive is put to the test. Featuring performances that are both mesmerizing and unforgettable, In Their Skin is a heart-stopping home invasion thriller that you won't forget. I really like the sound of this one. Not a film I'm familiar with, again, but I like a good home invasion story, and I particularly like the way it sounds like this one is set up, where it's not just a break-in by brute force, smash everything, kill people kind of home invasion story, but instead a slower, more subtle, more psychological kind of a home invasion where people get in, they get invited involuntarily, and then things go wrong. I think that's even scarier. Not that other home invasions aren't scary, but I think that's even scarier, and this should be a good film as well. That's In Their Skin, another promising offering. And third from the DVD pack, we have Last Girl Standing. What happens after the horror movie? Asks the little tagline at the bottom of the cover. Another film I'm not familiar with. So far we're 3 for 3 in terms of new films for me at least, so I always like that. One of the things I really like about these subscription services is that I'm going to get introduced to films that I don't already have, I haven't already seen, maybe I haven't even heard of. If I've already heard of it, there's a really good chance that I would have already seen it or bought a copy or rented a copy or whatever the case may be. For me, the benefit of something like HorrorPack is it's going to show me films like this that haven't come across my radar, gives me an opportunity to find something new. Anyway, let's read the description on this one. 5 years after a masked killer brutally murdered her closest friends, Cameron, the lone survivor, struggles to reclaim her shattered life. Though seemingly suffering from paranoid delusions, Cameron reluctantly starts hanging out with Nick, a new co-worker, and his tight-knit social circle. But just when she thinks she might be ready to finally start anew, Cameron's past comes back to haunt her. Part slasher movie, part character study, Last Girl Standing is a thrilling exploration of what happens to the final girls of horror movies. I like the sound of this one as well. This is not as original a storyline as it would have been a couple years ago. Let's see, according to the back, this came out in 2015, and even then, just a few short years ago, we didn't yet have quite as many of these self-aware final girl stories as we do over the last couple of years. It seems like there's been, well, the genre has these trends. It seems like sometimes everyone comes up with the same idea at the same time, and we get, 6 or 12 or 50 or 100 books or movies about the same kinds of ideas all at once within the space of a couple of years. And it seems like we're in the middle of that sort of trend with these final girl stories. We've got the final girl support group. We've got My Heart is a Chainsaw, which is a little bit different, but still self-aware. But this seems like it's following a similar premise. They all have their unique takes on it, so I'm not criticizing at all. I'm not saying that that's too much. I'm not saying the market's saturated. It's actually a really interesting idea. I hope that this film does it justice as some of the other books and films have, and I'm looking forward to trying it. If it does it well, that's a great story, and it should be a good watch. And finally, from the DVD horror pack for March 2022, we have Darlin'. The tagline on this one says, "Don't mess with Mother Nature." Again, a film I'm not familiar with. The cover looks interesting, and I see we have some religious imagery, some nuns. It looks like it takes place in maybe a convent or something. I like that setting, and I like those themes for a horror story. Let's read the description on the back and see what we're in for with Darlin'. Found at a Catholic hospital. Okay, Catholic hospital rather than a convent, but similar ideas. We've got nuns and things running around. Found at a Catholic hospital, filthy and ferocious, feral teenager Darlin is whisked off to a care home run by the bishop and his obedient nuns, where she is tamed into a good girl. Okay, so we are going to a convent or a seminary or some kind of a religious institution. Interesting. Carrying on. However, Darlin holds a secret darker than the sins she's threatened with, and she's not traveling alone. The woman, equally fierce and feral, who raised her, is ever present and is determined to come for her, no matter who tries to step in her way. Continuing the twistedly vicious adventure of Lucky McKee's cult hit The Woman, Darlin sees standout star Pollyanna McIntosh both in front of and behind the camera, expertly commanding an all-consuming feast for the senses and sensibility in equal measure. Okay, sounds like a sequel to The Woman, which I am aware of. I wasn't aware of this one. I was aware of the other one. I've not yet seen either one of them. So I may dive right in and watch this because it sounds like a great film. I really do like the sound of it. Or I may go back and watch the other film first and then watch this one. Haven't decided yet. Maybe I'll do a quick exercise of my Google foo and see whether I need to see the first film first or whether I can dive right into this one. Not sure. Can't tell you the answer to that. I'll find out. What I can say is that Lucky McKee's name is attached to it, lends it some credibility. He didn't write or direct this one, but he did the previous one in collaboration with Jack Ketchum, one of my favorite authors. So there's a lot of good things going for this. I will find out whether I need to see the first film first or whether I dive right into this one. Either way, this one's going relatively high on my list. I'm looking forward to trying Darlin. So we're 4 for 4 in terms of new films for me out of the DVD pack. Let's see if the Blu-ray pack offers us similar treasures. And so first out of the Blu-ray pack is a film called Crucible of Horror. This looks like a very 70s sort of a cover, and in fact the screenshots on the back look 70s-ish as well. Am I correct? Where's the date? Let's see. Yeah, 1971. So a 70s film. Somehow one that I'm not familiar with. I know a lot of old horror movies. This is one that has eluded me so far. So let's see what it's about. The description on the back says, fall under the spell of a psychological thriller that for tight, merciless tension is uncommonly effective and engrossing, according to the New York Times. This horrifying film tells the story of Edith, a terrorized wife who, along with her daughter, plots to kill her husband Walter to end his abusive treatment of them. They poison him and make his death look like a suicide, but they didn't count on one thing. Walter isn't ready to die. So seems like perhaps a murder and then the victim returns from the grave for revenge against the living. I'm not sure if calling him a victim sounds like the right terminology given the description that's written on the back, but for want of a better term, that's sort of what it sounds like. It's a plot that's been done many times before, frequently with great success. The 70s were a good time for horror movies. Maybe not as good as the 80s, which I still think is probably the best decade for horror movies if I really had to choose one. But they produced a lot of good horror back in the day, and I'm looking forward to trying this one that somehow I had missed until now. Next up, second out of the Blu-ray pack, we have a film called One-Eyed Girl. According to the tagline, it asks us, would you risk your life to save your soul? That's an intriguing question that the theologians can ponder while we carry on reading the description. According to the back, on the brink of a nervous breakdown, young psychiatrist Travis meets Grace, a representative of a secret church that promises salvation to even the most troubled of its members. Intrigued, Travis joins the church and meets its leader, the charismatic Father J, who indoctrinates him into his sect's sometimes radical practices. When a series of tragedies befalls Father J and his flock, Travis must decide if his loyalty truly lies with Father J, the ever-elusive Grace, or himself. Featuring standout performances from each member of its talented cast, One-Eyed Girl is a dark thriller filled with tension and dread that will haunt you long after the final frame. If it lives up to that promise, I am all for it. I am looking for haunting kinds of movies. And this one actually sounds like it might be able to deliver the goods. The themes of religion or cults, or perhaps the difference between religion and cult, are very interesting themes. These are really interesting ideas. It sounds like there are some mysterious characters. It seems like there's a lot going for this. I don't know a lot of the details in terms of what the horror actually ends up being, whether it's the cult, whether it's these other characters, whether there's something external. I don't know. We'll have to watch it to find out. But I'll tell you what, I'm looking forward to finding out. So this one is also going right near the top of my list. Coming right down the home stretch, third from the Blu-ray pack is VFW. This is a film that I am familiar with. I have not yet seen, and I don't own a copy, but I have heard of it. And frankly, it kind of looks like a really good time. The idea seems to be we've got some guys hanging out, veterans, at a VFW hall, and some kind of monsters come and invade, and these old veterans have to use the tips and tricks that they've learned over the years and their experiences to fight off the evil. That could be done seriously, it could be done fun. I have a feeling this is more to the fun side, but I don't know, I haven't seen it. In order to get a little bit more detail, let's read the description on the back, which says, in the latest movie from the iconic Fangoria, a typical night for a group of war veterans at the local VFW turns into an all-out battle for survival when a teenage girl runs into the bar with a bag of stolen drugs. Okay, I was going in a different direction than I thought. Suddenly, under attack from a gang of punk mutants... Okay, that's more in line with what I was expecting. Suddenly under attack from a gang of punk mutants looking to get back what's theirs at any cost, the vets use every weapon they can put together to protect the girl and the VFW in the biggest fight of their lives. Yeah, this is the kind of movie that I really like. Well, let me rephrase. I like all kinds of horror movies, but this is the kind of movie I'm really kind of in the mood for right now. Going right near the top of my list, looking forward to trying VFW. Maybe tonight, in fact. And finally, we have what must be the HorrorPack exclusive Blu-ray. Every month, one of the Blu-ray offerings in HorrorPacks is an exclusive to the HorrorPack company. It's a film that's maybe not been released on Blu-ray before, maybe it's entirely exclusive, maybe they have a special edition or an autographed edition or something along those lines. In this case, we have exclusive number 69, giggity, and that is a film called Freak. As usual for these HorrorPack exclusives, it's not a film that I'm familiar with. These are usually new to me because they're exclusives. I haven't had opportunity to see them elsewhere. But I've frequently been quite impressed by them. And the description on this one says, Ava, a washed-up writer who escapes a traumatic event in Los Angeles, retreats to a remote cabin in the woods of Pennsylvania. But the longer she stays, the more she realizes that her nightmare has only just begun. It seems kind of a trend, not with all, but with at least some of these exclusives, that the descriptions don't give us a whole lot of information. I guess they don't really need to tell us much on the back because we're only getting them through a subscription service that we've already paid for, so it's not like they're trying to sell us these movies because we've already subscribed, we've already got them. They're just giving us a little bit of a teaser. And I'll tell you what, the teaser has piqued my interest. As I've said before, this retreat to the woods and something bad happens plot has been done a million times before. Sometimes very well, sometimes not so well. It's a good plot for a horror movie. Particularly if you take city people who are not quite prepared for life out in the middle of nowhere and then put them into that sort of isolated setting, you can end up with a really interesting dynamic. You can end up with a really horrifying situation. It sounds like that's sort of what this is doing. Because the title is Freak, I'm guessing there's either some kind of insane killer and a freak in that sense, or a freak in the sense of some kind of mutant or monster or something out in the woods, and that's what our character is going to be fighting against. Either way should be a good story. Looking forward to trying this one, as I always look forward to trying the HorrorPack exclusives. So there we go. It seems like a really good batch this time. I'm looking forward to all of these. I haven't seen any of these. I've heard of some of them. I've not heard of some of them. All of them sound interesting. I don't think I ever really have had anything bad to say on this initial look at the HorrorPack movies, but honestly, having reviewed a bunch of them in the past, and as I said, that next review is coming soon, so be sure to stay tuned, there have been a couple that didn't do it for me, but the overwhelming majority have been good to great. These all sound really good. I assume that trend will continue, and I will enjoy at least the vast majority, if not all, of these films. My temptation is to just sign off right now and go pop one of these in the player and watch it now. I am mindful, however, that I do need to get that next review video out, and I still have a couple of last month's offerings that I haven't gotten to yet. So I'll probably be good. I'll watch the previous month's offerings first so that I can go ahead and get that video that I've been promising filmed and edited and posted for y'all to see. But sure as hell, I'm going to be watching these soon, and a couple months down the road, once I've gotten a few more of these packs, I will be including the reviews of these when I check in at the end of another 6-month period. And so that's all I've got for today. I've got movies to watch, I've got books to write, and I've got people to terrify, so I'm going to sign off. Do be sure to subscribe, ring the notification bell so you don't miss anything. While you're at it, leave me a comment, be sure to like this video, share it with your friends to help boost my viewership numbers up if you would. I'd appreciate all of those things. And until next time, as always, take care and stay scared.